Hey, JJ here. Hope everyone is doing well. I have some dollar coins. Very excited. I was able to pick up 4 of these rolls from the bank, and I'm excited to get in these and see what we have. Let's go ahead. You get $25 per roll, so this will be 25 coins. So this will be hopefully a quick $100 of a hunt. And we'll start with the first roll. We'll probably get some, yeah, see, there we go, a nice mix. So I see some Susan B. Anthony's, I see some presidentials, and I don't know, and there's a couple of Sacagaweas. So this should be a pretty cool hunt, all right? Let's go ahead and zoom on in and get started. Okay, so there we go. We'll look at Susan B. Anthony. These started in 1979. The year before this, you had the Ike dollars, the Eisenhower dollars. Those went from 1971 to 1978. And now you have the Susan B. Anthony's that go from 79. You have then 80 and 1981. And then there's a break in between all the way up to about 1999 will be the last year of the Susan B. Anthony dollar coins. And then starting in 2000, you then transition to the Sacagaweas. Okay, so you have on the reverse here that same reverse design as the Eisenhower dollar. And one of the criticisms was that these were the same sort of, they were confusing with the quarter. So they didn't gain a ton of popularity. All right, 79. And most of these in 79 are going to be your far dates. So the rim is going to be a little thinner. And that's the bulk of these. And then some of the more rare ones for 79 will be your near date with the wider rim. If you can find that, that's worth a little bit of money. Okay, so there's one. Another 79. Let's see if there's another one in here. There we go. Okay, this is going to be 1980. And another 1980. If you ever come across one of the gold looking 1999 Susan B. Anthony's, that's not supposed to be a gold coin. It's supposed to be the clad here. That's an error, because as you tend to have with transitioning years, that means that that would have been struck on a planchet that was meant for the Sacagawea, which started in 2000. So if you have a 1999 that is a Susan B. Anthony on that Sacagawea planchet, then that's an error, and that's worth some good money. I think one of them sold for like over $10,000, so just something to be on the lookout for. So we got a 79, we got some 70, we got an 80 in there, a couple of 80s. Let's see if we can get an 81. Nope, 79. And another 79, far date again. Okay, great. So we got some Susan B. Anthony. That's not bad for one roll. Let's take a look. And I'm curious, have you guys seen the dollar coins? I used to put, $5 in the vending machine, and if the soda cost $1, I would get back $4 coins. But nowadays I'm noticing when I do that, I get back a bunch of quarters. So I'm not seeing the dollar coins as often as I used to. All right, so we got 3 and 4. We got 7 Susan B. Anthony's. See, you guys can kind of see that rim. It looks just like a quarter, so I can kind of understand and the size of it. Here, let me go grab a quarter. 1 second. I can kind of see how there was confusion. Looks like it's a little bit bigger than the quarter. And this is going to weigh, your typical clad quarter is going to weigh in at about 5.67 grams. This is going to come in at about 8.1 grams, so it's a little bit heavier. But if you look at the rim, I can kind of see why there's some confusion, potential confusion. And it's a little bit bigger than the quarter butt. Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's see what else we have in this. Got James Madison. And these dollar coins, these presidentials, you're going to have writing on the edge there. Okay. So you're going to see in 2007 and 8, you're going to see "In God We Trust," as well as the mint and some additional inscription. And then in 2009 onward, you're going to see the "In God We Trust" and show up on the obverse. But you should have writing on those edges. So if you are missing any of the lettering, okay, that's an error. That's going to be worth some good money. Going to be worth more than face value, that's for sure. All right, so we got that one. Got some James Monroe. Always checking that. Actually, it's pretty easy if you just put a bunch of them together, like so. If you're ever looking for that error real quick, you can put a bunch of them together, and or the presidentials, and if you don't see the writing on that edge there, then you got some errors. So it's just real easy to check for that error just by looking. It looks like all these have writing, so we're okay. All right, so let's get through a couple more of these here. We got Andrew Jackson. James Monroe, lots of James Monroes. James Madison. We have a Sacagawea, very cool. This is a 2000p Sacagawea. Got the Soaring Eagle. There's some Cheerio ones out there with finer details on the feathers. Those are, I think there was only like 5,000 of those made. Those are extremely rare. So if you ever find those, congrats. At some point I'll put them under the microscope so we can see what the difference is. But we have a Sacagawea. And mostly the bulk of those created the 2000, 2001s you'll come across. Outside or after the 2001s, you really start hitting the NIFC land, the not intended for circulation. Andrew Jackson, back to the presidentials. So you had about, the presidentials, you had about, from 2007 on up to 2016, you had about 4 designs that rolled out each year. And then in 2020, President George H.W. Bush was added. And he was in 2020, the one single year for that presidential. This is the first one here, the presidential, George Washington. See that, first president. Make sure we check lettering. Statue of Liberty on the back. So these are really cool. I like the presidentials. John Adams. John Quincy Adams. That's a nice shiny one there. Back to some Sacagaweas, 2000. See if my camera's gonna focus. Philly. Now there's been again some errors with, let's say, if you have the Soaring Eagle on any of the presidentials. Again, it comes down to those transitioning periods. So if you have that, that's an error. You're not supposed to see that on the presidentials. For whatever reason, if you also see the Statue of Liberty on this Sacagawea, then again, not supposed to be that way. That's a call out for an error there. All right, opening up row number 2. Now this is really cool. Wasn't expecting to get one of these. This is the American Innovators coin. So, okay, this is the new American Innovation $1 program that kicked off in 2018 with this first one to start it off. And then so the Mint launched this one in 2018, followed by 4 that's going to go on from 2019 to 2032. And this first one is to honor George Washington. As you can see, George Washington, very cool. Signed first patent is what that says. Very, very cool. You have the Statue of Liberty. I think it's a very simple, very clean design. I know some collectors didn't like it. They thought it was too general, but I like the simplicity. It simply says, "In God We Trust." And you have the $1. And there's also privy marks on these too moving forward. There's privies, which are really cool. Yeah, so this is the first one. Now these are, what's interesting also about these is that they are really only meant for either the proof sets or the uncirculated, brilliant uncirculated. If you find these in circulation, these are not meant for circulation, believe it or not. In fact, about 500,000 of each mint, the Philadelphia, it's about 400,000 to 500,000. So 400,000 to 500,000 of Philly, 400,000 to 500,000 of Denver, and then there's some San Francisco proof striking. So each year for each design, so as we move forward, you'll see the 4 designs that come out each year, and it's about 1 million in total of each of those minted. So I actually think just the very nature of the low mintage makes these fairly collectible, in my opinion. And I think over the years, more folks will see that. So I'm kind of loading up on them now, but it's cool to get one in circulation. That means that someone had this in a set and they spent it back in circulation. So coin roll hunters like myself get an opportunity to pick them up. A little dirty, but that's okay. We'll still keep it. Very cool. So this is the first one, the 2018. And as I said, for each 4 going to roll out each year, starting in 2019, to celebrate state or a number of states, various innovations, and yeah, it's awesome. So back to the presidential. We have Ulysses S. Grant. And we have some more that we looked at. Monroe. That one's a little dirty. Yeah, these look pretty worn. Got some Sacagawea 2000s. Andrew Jackson again. See if I can flip through some of these that we haven't seen. We've seen the George Washington. And I think probably at the end of the roll, I'll just turn them over the side and see if there's any writing on those presidentials. But we've seen Sacagaweas already. A lot of D's. Got a P there. Zachary Taylor. More Sacagaweas. Yeah, I see the edge lettering there. James Madison. And there's a Abe. Abraham Lincoln. In God We Trust, 16th president. Very cool. Okay, I'll wait to the end. I'll put a few of those to the side and see if we can look for some edge lettering. Make sure they're all there for the presidentials. Let's move these over. Got a nice little mix. Got an American Innovation coin. Got presidentials. Got some Susan B. Anthony's. Got some Sacagaweas. All right, nice little mix. Got another Susan B. Anthony there. Let's see what year this is. Another 79. Most of them are. All right, let's see what we have here. These have definitely been circulated, I tell you. 2000 Ps. And this one looks interesting. I'm going to look at that one under their scope a little bit later. You know, us collectors looking for every little bit of error and variety that we can. I'm just going to look at those feathers. Make sure I don't come across no Cheerios. Because that'd be awesome fine. Wish these were a little bit cleaner so I can show on some of the details, but alright, let's see what we have here. A lot of Sacagaweas. And here we go, presidential. Another George Washington. Okay. Awesome. So that's 3 rolls. And let's check out this final roll. All right. Some more Abe Lincoln, John Quincy Adams. So most of these are going to be repeats. Sacagawea 2000 Ds. Yeah, see, most of these Sacagaweas are either, that I'm seeing here, either 2000 or 2001, which makes sense because, again, after that, most of those are NIFCs. So someone's going to have to either have them out of a mint set or souvenir set and spin them back in circulation. Because it's not going to be as easy to find those, I would imagine. I'll just have to potentially buy those from the mint. And we have a JFK. Very cool. That's the John F. Kennedy design. Very nice. Another 2000P. Another 79 Susan B. Anthony. And we have Franklin Pierce. What else do we have here? More Franklin Pierce. Thomas Jefferson. And another 79, far date. Another James Madison. George Washington. James Polk. Sacagawea 2000. A D and a P. Thomas Jefferson. Pop quiz. Thomas Jefferson was the first, second, or third president. Cast your vote now and I'll tell you the answer. He was the third president. Congratulations if you got that right. All right. Sacagawea 2000P. President Hayes. And we are finishing with a Susan B. Anthony 79 far date. Alright everyone, those are the dollar coins. I'll do more hunts of the dollar coins, but I hope you enjoyed some of the action, and until next time, have a good one.